The compact luxury sports sedan market gives you a lot of variety to choose from. Some cars are going to be very dynamic and enjoyable to drive, while others are going to be all about that luxury, the comfort, the softness, and the plushness, but lacking that fun factor that you desire in this market. But one type of car we haven't encountered yet is a jack of all trades. A car that, even if it's not the performance version, it still is exhilarating to drive. A car that gives you a driving environment that inspires you to get behind the wheel every single day. But also a car that gives you the technology that you expect in 2022. Now, I'm sitting next to the Audi A4. This is the B9.5 generation, which did experience a cosmetic facelift in 2020. And I'm really interested in seeing how it compares to other cars in this market, but also to see if you don't need an Audi S4, you don't want the performance, you don't want the stiffer handling and suspension, and you just want a great luxury daily commuter, then maybe taking a look at the Audi A4 might be a great decision. Now, before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Audi of Natick in Natick, Massachusetts for allowing me to do this review. The link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Audi inventory. Also, before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live on the channel. And so, without wasting any further time, let's get right in this review. Historically speaking, the Audi A4 has always found itself among a sea of competitors in this market, often being in the shadows of the Mercedes-Benz C-Class and BMW 3 Series. But ever since the B8 generation was introduced, Audi's taken major leaps in this segment to not only be taken seriously as a luxury sedan, but to also offer consumers an experience that's unique and well-rounded when it pertains to performance, technology, and interior comfort. In the first half of the 2020s, Audi continues to make strides, building off of the success of the B9 generation and tweaking elements of the A4 to get as close to perfection as possible. Starting off with pricing, the Audi A4 Premium Plus comes in at just over $47,000, sitting in between the premium and prestige trim levels for this luxury sedan. More so than BMW and Mercedes-Benz, Audi still puts an emphasis on their four-door car lineup, as even the A3 has received a good amount of development and improvements for the fourth generation, and it's possible that some buyers may question whether spending extra on the A4 is worth it. Being built on the MLB Evo platform, the A4's build quality, size, and interior is more than enough reasons to upgrade over its subcompact sibling, and better yet, Audi's compact sedan is competitive with the Mercedes-Benz C-Class and BMW 330i in almost every metric. For those on the fence when it comes to choosing an A3 or A4, there's a 12-inch difference in length, and the A4 is also 2 inches wider, giving you more interior space, rear legroom, and overall cargo capacity. As we saw with the S4 a few years ago, the B9.5 facelift has worked wonders for this luxury sedan, giving it the striking road presence it deserves. It could be debated that prior to the 2020 model year, the A4 was a bit too subdued and reserved, lacking an outspoken character that European brands are best known for. The most eye-catching addition to the front fascia is the honeycomb grille design that replaced the horizontal chrome accents in the past, and while we usually associate this look with Audi's wearing the RS badge, there is a subtle dynamic appearance, and that's mostly attributed to the S4 wearing the same aesthetics. With the Premium Plus trim, you have LED headlights with signature daytime running lights, but the Prestige will come standard with Audi's Matrix design LEDs for a classier road presence. Moving over to the side profile, this A4 is sitting on 18-inch 5 double-spoke wheels, but you can upgrade to 19s, which may affect the ride quality. Impressive is how comfortable and forgiving the suspension is, while at the same time being rigid to minimize body roll and providing a sense of athleticism. You have body color folding side mirrors with turn signal indicators to go along with blind spot detection for added safety. Then coming around to the back, typical for this German manufacturer is that the A4 does share a close resemblance to the bigger A6, as the design cues are scaled down to fit the dimensions of this sedan. There'll be a chrome strip that runs the length of the rear fascia and integrates into the dynamic LED taillights, which has been present on most Audis for a few years now. Dual exhaust outlets will complete the overall look of the A4, adding sporty credentials to this luxury car. Under the hood, this A4 is powered by a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, producing 261 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque, and is paired with a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. For most luxury sedans that are not performance-driven, they will show their weaknesses, whether it's due to the less potent powertrains or the manufactured sports modes that give you a hint of athleticism, but there's a sense of a lack of refinement that will take away from the overall driving experience. The A4 will be completely opposite of some of its rivals, providing a balanced on-road demeanor that a wide range of buyers will enjoy. Best of all, Audi's Quattro all-wheel drive system comes standard, so you can tackle winter road conditions on your weekday travels. For fuel economy, you're looking at right around 24 miles per gallon in the city, and 31 miles per gallon on the highway. Stepping inside, you're greeted by an aesthetically pleasing interior, with high-resolution screens that you'll be interacting with on a daily basis, thanks to Audi's virtual cockpit and MMI user interface. The optional Atlas beige seats provides a nice color contrast on this model, with both the driver and passenger receiving power adjustability and 3-level heated seats, with the driver's side being 2-position memory for added convenience. Comfort and support is exactly what you'd expect in this price range, but if you're somebody who wants a sports car experience, bolstering won't be too aggressive, so you may want to upgrade to the S4. In front of you, the iconic virtual cockpit immerses you into the 21st century. But more importantly is the fact that the intuitiveness and quality is arguably unmatched, as you can showcase a wide variety of information, including a navigation map so you don't have to look over to the infotainment system. But speaking of this touchscreen, this is a 10.1-inch display, with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto compatibility, and of course we have onboard navigation to go along with a $950 Bang & Olufsen 3D sound system to amplify the audio of your favorite music. With Audi removing the rotary dial for the B9.5 facelift, this user interface is strictly a touchscreen. And while sometimes that can be seen as a negative, this head unit is very responsive and doesn't lag like we see from competitors. From here, you can change the drive mode and individualize your driving experience, or you can scroll through vehicle settings and other menus that are relevant to you. By opting for the Premium Plus, you will have a top view camera to supplement the other angles to help you park your car on city streets or tight spots in a garage. Below, you'll have the buttons and dials for the 3-zone climate control, front and rear defrosters, and 3-level heated front seats. Ventilated seats are also available on the Premium Plus. Continuing on down, there will be a row of buttons for the drive mode selector, auto start stop, traction control, parking assist features, and you can also turn off the screen for the user interface if you so desire. For the center console, you'll find a USB input and 12-volt outlet. And with the facelift cleaning up the interior layout, there will be a knob that controls the volume and tuning. Taking a look at the center storage compartment, you'll have a wireless phone charging pad and enough room for loose change or very small items. And rounding out the front seating area, above will be a power moonroof to let in some natural light to the interior. Now for passengers in the second row, we're going to start off on the passenger side. And this seat is adjusted most of the way back. It's also on a recline. And I have a good amount of legroom to work with here. Now, do keep in mind, I am around the height of 5'5", so I'm not the tallest person out there, but I do think that if you're on the height of 5'8" or 5'9", you should be more than comfortable. I think your only real issue is going to be the lack of headroom, since the Audi A4 is a sedan, and that if you are somebody looking at buying an A4 and you do have tall passengers in the second row, and that is a bit of a concern for you, you might want to go with the Q5. But from a sedan perspective, and just looking at what you have here to work with when it comes to legroom, this really isn't that bad because the front seats are quite adjustable. They go back quite a long way, and really I don't think that you're going to be having people over the height of 6 feet tall all the time. So I think smaller kids should be fine. They shouldn't feel too claustrophobic at all on a longer drive. Then moving on to the center seat, you are going to have some decent placements for your feet, but the center hump is quite aggressive. Now that doesn't really change anything at all, just because the Audi A4, being a compact sedan, isn't going to be very wide, so you're not going to have a lot of shoulder room to begin with. So I do think that if you do plan on having people in the second row, limit that to just 2 people on the outboard seats, because you're not going to be fitting that third person at all. And that is not a surprise, just because a lot of sedans in this market are just not big enough or accommodating enough to try squeezing in that third person. And then on the driver's side, I adjusted the seat to someone of my height, around 5'5", and I have a good amount of legroom to work with here. So if you're more of an average size adult and you have an average size family, I think everyone should be comfortable. Also, another thing too to point out is that the second row seats do sit a bit lower, so it does maximize the amount of headroom you do have back here. But again, if you do have taller passengers, they may be hitting their head on the headliner. But for me, as someone at my height, and I think people around the height of 5'8" or 5'9", you probably won't be complaining at all sitting back here. Also back here, you will have 2 rear air vents to go along with climate control. Now, we do not have heated outboard seats on this model. You have 2 USB inputs, a 12-volt outlet, and rounding out the rear seating area, you do get a center armrest with 2 cup holders. Now, coming around to the back, of course, you're not going to have a power trunk, but at the press of a button, it does open nice and wide. And inside, you're going to have right around 12 cubic feet of room behind the second row seats, which is pretty much on par with a lot of sedans in this market. It will outclass the Genesis G70. And today I was able to fit all my camera gear, and there was still enough room where I could do some grocery shopping as well. So that's 2 bags of camera gear, a gimbal box, and I also fit my tripod back here with ease as well. Now, I do think that if you are going on a road trip with the family, you'll be able to fit 2, possibly 3 bags of luggage. And again, I think just like with the interior spacing, if you are somebody that does go on road trips quite a bit, I think the Q5 would be a better decision. But if you're somebody that's just looking for a sedan and a daily commuter, I think this is more than enough for sure. Then with the second row seats folded, that will double the cargo capacity and size, so that way you'll be able to fit longer items or anything else you might be carrying with you on a daily basis. Then on either side of the rear cargo area, you'll have some netting with some cubbies where you can fit smaller items such as water bottles or car detail equipment, so that way you can keep this Audi A4 nice and clean. And then beneath the floor mat, you are going to have a spare tire. So if you do encounter a flat on your road trips or travels, you can fix that and be back on the road. And speaking of the road, let's set off on that test drive. So we are now behind the wheel of the Audi A4, and I'm really interested in seeing how this compares to a BMW 330i, Mercedes-Benz C300, or even a Lexus IS350 or an Alfa Romeo Giulia. Now, every single time I get a Audi to feature, I get a bit excited. And I'm trying to figure out why, because in the past, and we're talking maybe 10, 12 years ago, Audi would always be your third option. It wouldn't be the first brand you would go to if you wanted to buy a German car. It would be BMW or Mercedes-Benz. But what Audi's been able to do over the last, I'd say, maybe 5 to 7 years, is really transform this brand into being appealing, but also giving you subtle luxury. That's a term I don't really hear a lot in the automotive world, which is subtle. And that's exactly what Audi is when you look at it from the outside. But then when you step inside, you're greeted by an interior that's perfect for the driver of today. Now, I would be doing a 0 to 60 time right now, but unfortunately, there is a cop right there, so I don't want to be speeding during this test drive. It just would not be good. But speaking of performance, you're going to have right around 261 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque. And it's paired with a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. And for vehicles with less potent engines, I'm not usually a fan of the transmissions and how they pair up with a turbocharged 4-cylinder. But this is pretty smooth. Now, I am in comfort mode, so that might be playing a role. But the 7-speed dual clutch shifts so smoothly, and I think it's a better transmission than the 9-speed automatic that we see in the Mercedes-Benz C-Class. Now, of course, BMW and Alfa Romeo do use ZF 8 speeds, and of course, the Audi S4 uses a ZF 8 speed, but that's for a whole different purpose and a whole different car. So let's put the Audi A4 in dynamic mode and also lower the fan speed here so that you can hear me better. And it does make the driving dynamics a bit more engaging, a bit more dynamic, should we say. Also, the steering does stiffen up a bit, and of course, the engine does respond a little bit better. I do like comfort mode for this car, though. It really fits its persona and personality. But the one thing with Audi is that you're not going to have this on the edge of your seat performance, even for an A4. Because with BMW, you get the 330i, but they do give you a stiffer handling, a stiffer suspension, and of course, they're really focused on being the ultimate driving machine. And then I think also the Alfa Romeo Giulia, right off the bat, is a very athletic sedan. But the Audi A4 really takes luxury very seriously. But also in this segment, they're one of the few brands that also emphasizes technology. What I also like too is that the steering wheel is nice and big with nice placements for the 9 and 3 positions. Usually you'll get aggressive 10 and 2 positions, but it feels very comfortable and natural at 9 and 3. Now when it comes to the ride quality, when it comes to the lack of road noise, it's very well insulated in here. And also, of course, these seats, they don't provide a very aggressive amount of bolstering, but they do keep you in place and a good amount of support as well. Now, when it comes to A-pillars, they are pretty thin, so they don't really create that much of a blind spot. Side mirrors are decently sized. They are shaped a little more aerodynamically, but I can't see what's in my blind spots. And then looking out back, the headrests are not creating much of a blind spot there, so rear visibility is pretty good. But even on this minor acceleration there in dynamic mode, it's very well refined. And I hate using refined. I say that way too much with these reviews, but it really is exactly what you would hope for in a luxury sedan at this price point. Brake feel, very nice, very confidence-inspiring. And then let's continue on with the interior, since we are at a red light here. What I'm a big fan of with the A4 or Q5 or any other Audi that's not built on the MQB platform is the fact that you have a nice wide center console. It makes the sedan feel a lot wider than it is in reality. Also, a good amount of shoulder room as well. Very spacious in here, but also the fact that the dashboard does wrap around you. It gives you a very secure feeling. And really, I think that this is a fantastic daily driver if you are looking for luxury. Now, we are going to get to my favorite portion of these test drives, at least with Audi, because I can really experience these back roads here, is to see what the handling is like for the A4 and really how it compares to the Audi S4. Now, I think the S4 is designed for a specific buyer, a specific person who is looking for performance. But I do think that the S4 is a nice balance where you can get that luxury as well. But the A4 is all about that comfort and also giving you a nice laid-back driving experience that you would expect for a luxury sedan in this price point. All right, so let's see what the A4 is made of when it comes to its handling. Now, what I will say is that when you are cornering, when you are on these back roads, the steering is not very tight. It's not as tight as the Audi S4, which is really to be expected, but also compared to the 330i. The 330i is a very weighted steering, where the A4 is a bit more fluid. It's a little bit lighter, but very direct. But I think a lot of buyers who are looking at purchasing an A4 or Mercedes-Benz C300 aren't necessarily looking for a sporty experience. They're not looking to carve up back roads. They want comfort, they want refinement, and they want smoothness. And that's exactly what the A4 is offering here. Very comfortable, and it's also very confident around these corners. I'm not feeling a lot of body roll at all. It handles very well for a non-performance model. But I think that's what Audi's all about. And I talked about this a few minutes ago, is that it's all about subtle performance, subtle luxury, subtle design. You see that from the exterior. The exterior doesn't shout that it's a premium luxury sedan. It doesn't shout that it's sporty, but it's a car that definitely gives you an experience that you want to have if you are looking to upgrade over a Volkswagen or Toyota or Honda. This car is, I think, a great next step. But I've talked to a lot of people in my age range, in my demographic, and a lot of people are moving on to Audi. And I think what Audi has created here and designed is a car that is both technologically advanced, but also a car that I think really reflects where my generation is going. Because I think BMW has moved away from who they were, where the type of clientele that purchases an Audi is a bit more on the professional side. They're people that don't want to grab a lot of attention, where I think BMW still is that. They've definitely gone in the direction of performance, but also even just their designs. They want to get attention. They want to be noticed. Whereas Audi, they've done such a great job with their cars where you can just enjoy the driving experience. You can enjoy the ownership experience without really having the eyes set on you as you're cruising around on back roads or going to work. Ooh, get a nice little kickback there. Also, you do hear some of that exhaust note. It does give you a nice little DSG fart. Let's downshift again. Quick acceleration, quick gear shifts, but also one thing that I was not expecting here is that one, you get DSG farts, but also that I thought the A4 would be a bit more mute. But when you are accelerating, there's at least some engagement there, and I like that, I really do. But looking at this from a performance standpoint, comparing it to other models that I have featured in this segment, I like what the A4 is giving me here. Yes, it's not going to be the most dynamic when it comes to cornering ability, when it comes to steering input, or even feedback in that way. You're not going to get the feedback when you are on those twisty back roads. But in straight line performance, the turbocharged 4-cylinder engine and the 7-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission are a perfect pairing. But one thing that I've not touched on is that for the B9.5, you also get a 12-volt mild hybrid system that gives you an extra 13 horsepower. But I think also it adds that smoothness. It adds to that refinement when you are accelerating, where you're not going to get that jolt. You're not going to get the turbo lag necessarily when you are just easing into the throttle when you're off the line. Now, when it comes to hard accelerations, of course, you will experience the turbo lag, but there is that rather linear acceleration feel that I think a lot of buyers are definitely going to love. So to wrap up the test drive portion of this video, what are my final thoughts and takeaways when it comes to the on-road experience for this sedan? And really, I think this is a very all-around competent sedan. When you compare it to other vehicles in this market, I think Audi's more of a jack of all trades. It's not going to outshine in one way or the other. It's not going to be a standout when it comes to performance because you're always going to look at the Alfa Romeo Giulia. And then also, of course, BMW still is a bit more of a dynamic brand, even for their non-performance models. But with Audi, you have the performance that definitely inspires confidence, whether you are on the highway or you're on back roads. You also have the handling capabilities that, okay, they're not as heavy as a 330i. It's not going to be as athletic as a Alfa Romeo Giulia, but the smoothness definitely gives you more of that adequate and sufficient feel that I think a lot of buyers who aren't looking for a sportier experience are definitely going to love and to appreciate. But also, it comes back to the interior. I've enjoyed my 30 minutes behind the wheel of this sedan, and I think it's because it's very upscale for its price point, even though I think you could argue that it's a bit more minimalistic and simple than some competitors. But also, when you factor in who the clientele is for the Audi A4 or just Audis in general, it's definitely for the people who are more reserved, that they're ready to make a leap forward where it really is a nice milestone brand, where it is luxurious. It is a step up over Volkswagen. It's a step up over Toyota and Honda, and I think even above Acura and Lexus, even though that would be direct competitors. I think when you look at what Audi's giving you technology-wise, I think also performance as well, it's just an all-around great sedan. And, you know, I think with other brands, other sedans I've reviewed, that I could have one aspect that I would point to and say that's what defines this car. But the Audi A4, there's so many different perspectives that I can come from where Audi just nails it with this sedan in this particular generation. And I wouldn't have said that with the B8, even though the B8 is a legendary generation. The B9 just takes things one step further. So to wrap up this review, what are my final thoughts and takeaways for the Audi A4? And to be completely honest with you, I was not expecting to enjoy the sedan as much as I did today. And I think a lot of that is because having driven the Audi S4 in the past, I'm expecting a completely different experience, one that isn't enjoyable. The fact that there is no stiff suspension or tight steering might numb my experience today. And that the fact that there is no V6 and ZF 8-speed automatic transmission is just going to make the driving experience when it comes to performance not that great. But to my surprise, the Audi A4, compared to other turbocharged four-cylinder engines out there, I think is a standout. Now, it's not going to be great in one particular aspect, but it is going to be a car that you walk into and you are actually going to fall in love with. I think a lot of it is because of the interior. The interior sets a tone for this sedan. When you look at the Audi's virtual cockpit and Audi's MMI user interface, this is technology that you want to experience in 2022 and interact with. Compared to other vehicles in this market that are non-German or even some of the German competitors, it's just not that great, not that intuitive, especially Mercedes-Benz. I think BMW, you can make the argument that the iDrive 7 system in the 3 Series is a really good user interface, but I think the Audi A4 from a technological aspect is a standout in and of itself because they have focused on that more than just solely focusing on premium luxury. And I think that's because Audi is moving in the direction of being more electronic. You can see it with their EVs. They want to go in that direction. But I think also for buyers in this market, I think a lot of people are now really responding to the technology. And Audi understands that more than anyone else. But getting to the driving aspect, because of course you'll be cruising around in this car throughout the week, I love the turbocharged four-cylinder engine that's paired with the 7-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. Whether it's in comfort mode or dynamic, it performs quite well. There is no turbo lag when you're easing into the throttle. Also, when it comes to handling, it is smooth, it is light, it's not heavy like an S4, but it does inspire that confidence. And that is something that I was not expecting walking into this car. Having listened to other journalists and other consumers, the A4, I think, is a great daily if you want a luxury sedan. Comparing it to a 330i, the 330i might have a heavier steering feel. Maybe you don't want that. The Alfa Romeo Giulia is going to be more athletic. And then Mercedes-Benz is going to be all about the luxury. But the Audi A4 is a nice mix. It's a nice blend. And that's why I feel that this car right here is certainly an eye-catcher and one that I think is definitely worth taking a look at and taking it out for a test drive. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. Also make sure to follow me on Instagram at Boston Autoblog so you can see what I'm up to and what vehicles I'll be featuring in the future. And I will see you guys next time.